I want to talk to you about the new ad for the Indigenous Voice to Parliament. Not as a political commentator, I'll take that hat off, but rather I thought I'd give you the benefit of my 3 decades working in the advertising industry. You may have already seen bits of the new ad, which is pompously titled "History is Calling," but I'm going to give you a glimpse behind the scenes, what they're really up to. When I began in advertising in the 80s, there was a simple rule, an ethics code, if you like, that we creative people had drummed into us. An advert must be 4 things: legal, decent, honest, and truthful. In my humble opinion, which you're obviously free to disagree with or agree with, this voice ad definitely fails 3 of those categories, possibly even 4. It is arguably not truthful. It is self-evidently dishonest. I'll tell you why in a second. It is indecent in that it exploits young people's emotions, and in my opinion, although I am obviously neither a lawyer nor a politician, it is in breach of certainly the spirit of federal government advertising guidelines. So, without further ado, let me do what would happen in an ad agency, and I'll take you through my criticism scene by scene.
I got a story to tell you. It's a good one. It's about how these people, the first people, got a voice.
Okay, hold it there. So far, so good. Beautiful lighting. Nice campfire at dusk in the outback scene. Great charismatic actor, love him. Bunch of kids, all good. And a nicely written setup which draws the viewer in. Let me tell you how these people, the first people, got a voice. Great. Now, I'm going to cheat here and take you right to the end of the ad for the so-called payoff, the money shot, which is where you draw all the threads together and you deliver your emotional knockout blow.
Is that story true?
It could be.
So here's the problem. Even the kids unwittingly spot it. Is this story true? Well, no, it isn't true. Unfortunately, the story that the narrator has told the impressionable young kids is both dishonest and untruthful. Here's why.
60,000 years they've been speaking.
Had 363 languages.
But no voice. No say on matters which affected them. It wasn't right.
No say in matters which affected them. It wasn't right. That's the core statement of the ad, and it is simply untrue. Aboriginal Australians have precisely the same legal rights and say in all matters that affect them as every and any other Australian citizen. Aboriginal women, for example, were voting in South Australia before women had the vote in much of the rest of the world. In New South Wales, Aborigines were voting as early as 1913. The number of Aborigines in our federal parliament, 11, gives Indigenous Australians a greater pro rata voice in all affairs that affect them or anything else than any other segment of the population. To say Indigenous Australians have no say in matters that affect them is a downright lie. And if you made such a dishonest statement about any advertising product, you know, spray this stuff on and you'll marry a beautiful millionairess, or drink this beer and you'll become a rock star, it would be pulled straight off air. But the claim, which is central to the ad, because the rest of the ad is nothing but a desperate plea to get people talking about the topic, is not only untrue, it is dishonest. And the proof of the pudding is the ad itself. According to the Advertising Bible campaign brief, the ad was directed by an Indigenous man. The cinematographer was an Indigenous man, and the music was composed by an Indigenous man. So how can you genuinely say that Indigenous Australians have no say in what affects them when the ad features and is made by talented and self-evidently successful Indigenous Australians? Did they have no say in their own careers? The blurb attached to the ad claims that, quote, The story illustrates what a future might be if we all supported the voice at the upcoming referendum. But it doesn't. It does nothing of the sort. It doesn't even pretend to show any practical advantages that the voice is supposed to be bringing about. Not one. Not even the faintest attempt to suggest that this might actually do something, finally, something positive for some Indigenous Australians in drug-ravaged remote communities, or might help tackle domestic violence or even reduce chronic unemployment, all of which would have made for powerful arguments, not to mention a really powerful ad with powerful visuals. But nope. Instead, the main body of the ad is devoted, wait for this, to a transparent and cynical attempt to drum up grassroots political support amongst the lefties in inner city suburbs based on vacuous woke emotions devoid, as always, of any facts.
Me and your granddad.
Me and your mum.
The whole nation did something about it. People called their friends and families. People talked about it on the streets, talked about it at work, on the field. Everybody made a song and dance about it.
Except, of course, they're not. People aren't making a song and dance about the voice in the workplace or in their daily lives. They've got far more important things to do. And this ad is the giveaway. As an ex-ad man, let me tell you, you can always spot the brief a mile away. And this one was obviously, we have to get people talking about the voice. Obviously, nobody is, without actually giving them any information or reason to talk about it. With polls already showing majority support for the voice, it's clear that the Albanese strategy of don't scare them by telling them what they're voting for will probably work. Again, that is clearly what the brief was based on. But in failing to provide any concrete information about the voice, I believe the ad defies the spirit, if not the letter, of political information campaigns, which are supposed to provide factual information, not be based solely on emotion, which this is. And finally, the ad relies on the cheapest trick in the ad man or ad woman's handbook. Pester power. Appeal to the impressionable kiddies, use emotion over facts, and trust that with enough propaganda within the school hours, when they get home, they'll keep on at mum and dad until the parents simply go, yes, of course, Kayla or Jaylene, of course we'll be voting yes. How could we not? When the kids are so clearly impressed.
And that's how we changed this country for the better. How we made history.
Is that story true?
And that is how history is made, with clever ad campaigns. Meanwhile, of course, over in Italy, real history was being made this weekend, and it wasn't built on ad campaigns. It was built on one woman's fiery determination to challenge the globalists and the destructive policies and campaigns of the modern left. Giorgia Meloni and her Conservative Party, Fratelli d'Italia, won the election, and she will be the next Prime Minister. This is the sort of conservative determination we do not have in Australia, and we will never get it because you can't pick up a paper without having Giorgia Meloni described as far-right or even fascist, which is ludicrous. In one of her most famous speeches, Giorgia Meloni rails against the globalist, anti-individual, anti-national, anti-religious, anti-family modern left. As I say, we do not see anything like this passion and conviction from coalition leaders, which is probably why we have wall-to-wall Labor governments. I'll play you a short clip in a second, but it demonstrates the fighting spirit that won her this Italian election.
Non devo potermi definire italiana, cristiana, donna, madre, no. Io devo essere cittadino X, genere X, genitore 1, genitore 2, devo essere un numero.
It would be refreshing to have a liberal or national leader so determined to defend the traditional values she was talking there about there, and to fight the lunacy of today's modern left. You know, the mob who are too scared to even define what a woman is. If only we had some conservative leaders here who were prepared to stand up against the crippling, divisive insanity of this bizarre and soul-destroying creed of wokeness. As Maloney pointed out, quoting Chesterton, we are now living in an era where you have to fight to prove the most basic truths. Quote, fires will be kindled to testify 2 and 2 make 4. Swords will be drawn to prove leaves are green in summer, to which you could add armies will be raised to prove that a woman is an adult female human. Here she is again, winning by defending that which is sacred, her church, her country, and her family. Maybe Dutton, Dominic, Matthew, Guy and the others could take a few tips.
E questo piaccia o no ha del sacro. Lo difenderemo Dio, la patria e la famiglia che fanno tanto schifo a qualcuno. Lo faremo per difendere la nostra libertà